With Russia gaining influence in the Middle East and the U.S. seeming to lose influence, the two sides will face off in Vienna tomorrow. Dale Hurd has the story.
For the first time since Russian warplanes began flying combat missions in Syria, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry will meet in Vienna Friday with Russian officials. The meeting will follow a visit to Moscow this week by Syrian ruler Bashar al-Assad, the first known trip outside his country since the start of its conflict more than 4 years ago. Assad owes Putin a great deal. He was losing before Russian forces began operations against rebels. The red carpet welcome for Assad, who has used chemical weapons on his own people, was a slap in the face to the West and is seen as an effort by Russia to position itself as the leading power broker in the Syrian conflict.
What I can tell you is, regardless of the visit, nothing's going to change about what we're focused on. Just two things: going after ISIL inside Syria and inside Iraq, and trying to get at a political track, a political solution here in Syria.
But perhaps something should change, because Vladimir Putin is outmaneuvering Obama on the chessboard of the Middle East, as the White House now looks for a way to salvage its agenda for the region. Meanwhile, the United States, France, Britain, and Germany have asked the UN Security Council to investigate and take appropriate action against Iran for conducting a ballistic missile test earlier this month, which they say violated UN sanctions, although the U.S. called the test entirely separate from its nuclear deal with Iran. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Congressman Paul Ryan is one step closer to winning the race for House Speaker. The group known as the Freedom Caucus says it is supporting the former vice presidential nominee. That is the same Republican bloc said to be responsible for pushing John Boehner's departure from the post. Members of the Freedom Caucus had raised concerns about Ryan, but they emerged from closed-door meetings Wednesday to say they would support him. Unified Republican support was one of Ryan's demands to run for the Speaker's job. Vice President Joe Biden is not running for president in 2016. He made the announcement Tuesday from the White House Rose Garden alongside his wife Jill and President Obama. Biden says he is still grieving after losing his son, Beau, to cancer earlier this year, and he feels he could not run a successful campaign if he entered the race now. Some political experts say Biden's decision not to run could help Hillary Clinton's chances of securing the Democratic nomination for president. And Clinton today is in the hot seat to testify about the deadly 2011 Benghazi attack. Clinton is appearing before a special House committee for the first public hearings in nearly 10 months. She was Secretary of State at the time of the attack, and she's testified before. But the committee wants more answers. Democrats criticize the committee, saying it's a partisan effort to undermine Clinton's bid for the White House. But a new poll shows Americans view the investigation as justified. A United Nations body has declared 2 Jewish biblical holy sites are Islamic. It is also accusing Israel of mistreating Palestinians on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell is on the story.
Israel says UNESCO is helping Palestinians to rewrite biblical history and transform the Israeli-Palestinian conflict into a religious one.
UNESCO has become an instrument in the hands of the Arabs and the Palestinians.
The United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization passed a resolution saying the Tomb of the Patriarchs in Hebron and Rachel's tomb in Bethlehem are an integral part of Palestine. Earlier, they claimed both as mosques. Israeli Foreign Ministry spokesman Emmanuel Nachshon told CBN News the declaration helps Palestinians promote their political narrative.
It is an attempt by the Arab side and by the Palestinians to change history, to pretend as if those places which are holy places for Judaism, which have been holy places for Judaism for thousands of years, are actually Palestinian or Muslim holy places.
Historical evidence indicates that the biblical forefathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob were buried in the cave of the patriarchs, along with their wives. The site of Rachel's tomb is believed to be the burial place of the biblical matriarch Rachel, the favored wife of Jacob. The resolution stopped short of including the Western Wall as part of the Al-Aqsa compound, as Palestinians had hoped. It would have renamed the plaza Al-Barak after Muhammad's winged horse.
even in such an organization as UNESCO, which has become a puppet in the hands of the Palestinians, there is a limit to what you can do. But I have no doubt that they will try again.
The resolution also accused Israel of aggression on the Temple Mount. Yet Palestinians have repeatedly attacked police and visitors to the Temple Mount, the holiest site in Judaism. The current wave of terrorism is a reaction to what they say are Israeli attempts to change the status quo. Israel denies any changes there.
This Palestinian initiative is certainly related to what we live here on the ground. Palestinian violence, Palestinian incitement, and also the attempt to transform a conflict into a religious conflict.
Earlier, Palestinians set fire to the tomb of the biblical patriarch Joseph. Palestinian Authority Chairman Mahmoud Abbas condemned that arson attack, but Nachshon says it's a sign of what would happen if Palestinians were in charge.
The Palestinian arson of Joseph's tomb demonstrates very clearly what would be the fate of Jewish holy sites if they were under Palestinian control.
Dr. Cornelius Becker from Regent University said Christians should care because it's their history too.
The history of Israel is about God's choice. God chose Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph here, the very tomb that's now been set on fire. And so we feel a kinship with Israel because it's about God's choice and it's our history. Jesus was a Jew, Paul was a Jew, the early church were all Jewish.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News.
Christians could soon be extinct from entire regions of the world. That is the warning from a new report from a Catholic group in the United Kingdom called Aid to the Church in Need. The group says the worst of it is happening in the Middle East and Africa, and Christianity could actually disappear from Iraq within the next 5 years if the situation doesn't change.
There were perhaps 1 million or 1.2 million Christians. But if we look at what's happened since, the figures have declined very drastically, so that we're now looking at numbers in the range of 200 to 250,000 Christians, of whom about 100 or 150,000 are in fact displaced and as a result looking for an exit from Iran.
The report says Christians are now the most persecuted faith group in the world, and the International Society for Human Rights estimates 80% of all acts of religious discrimination were against Christians. Tensions are rising in Haiti ahead of Sunday's first round of presidential balloting and local elections. Officials say at least 15 people were killed over the last few days in the city of Soleil, one of the biggest slums in the country, on the edge of the capital city of Port-au-Prince. In other parts of Haiti, riots have been happening every day for months. Reporter Caitlin Berg visited one of those areas, and she brings us the story of one group that refuses to stop helping its community, even in the midst of all the chaos.
The town of Arcaye sits along the main road running through Haiti. Driving through, it looks much like any other community you would find here, until you take a closer look.
These scorch marks are from the daily riots and roadblocks set up in this community, reminders that it's not safe.
Those daily riots and protests against the government have been happening in Arcaye for months. They break out without warning and often result in violent altercations between the rioters and police. Children's Lifeline, an organization that partners with CBN's Orphans Promise, has been working in the community for more than 20 years.
We're not working for the government, we're not working for anyone, but we're working for God.
The organization's school feeding program has been affected by the riots, but they refuse to let the children in their care go hungry.
Under normal circumstances, these kids would all be in school right now, eating their lunches delivered by Children's Lifeline. But because of political unrest, it's not safe. So instead, all who are able come here because school's not in session.
For those who can't make it to the Children's Lifeline complex, staff members pack the food into buckets and travel either by truck or on foot to make sure it's delivered.
We try to do our best, even we got problem in this area, but we still send them food. The other days, we got a problem because no vehicles can just drive on the main road. Any driver can go to that road. But what we do, we carry the food in our head, to transport to the kids because we care about them.
It's unknown when school will be able to resume for the children of Arcaye. But Children's Lifeline says despite the violence, it won't stop carrying out its mission. Caitlin Burke, CBN News, Arcaye, Haiti.
The Philippines is still reeling 4 days after Typhoon Kapu slammed the island nation. The storm left 41 dead and more than 600,000 displaced. One of the most devastated communities is the Aurora province, but CBN Disaster Relief is providing for the immediate needs of families there, giving out 6 kilos of rice along with canned goods, noodles, and milk, as well as urgently needed medical care. CBN is not only bringing relief, but teaching residents how to prepare for the next storm.
We would also want to teach them how to prepare, since they are always hit by typhoons and it's very hard to communicate and give them relief after big disasters.
Operation Blessing plans to help victims rebuild their homes. You can find out more about what CBN is doing in the Philippines by logging on to cbn.com/international. Still to come, turning tragedy into a firefighting formula that saves lives. See how this man's emotional journey is having an impact across the globe. Today, it is the largest international fire training academy, started by a man who faced terrible tragedy as a young boy. Angela Zatopek shows us the story behind his biggest achievement, which only came to life through death.
Halloween 1976, a night that forever changed the Moffat family.
From what we understand, our house was caught on fire from one of those jack-o'-lanterns that you sit in the windows. You remember the plastic?
As the flames spread, the father and 2 children managed to escape, but sadly their mother, Linda, did not. Despite his family's painful loss, young Mick gained something valuable that night.
From that point, what I really remember the most vivid images, are these 2 men that went up a ladder and actually brought me down to a safe place. They spent literally 20 minutes just trying to encourage me and just said, hey, this is our project right now for the next 20 minutes because we know his life's about to change.
With the compassion Mick saw from the firefighters as a young boy, Mick became a firefighter himself and had a vision to start his own fire training academy, which has now come to life in Crowley, Texas, called Smart Fire Training Division.
Right side, right side.
In only 13 years, Smart Fire Training Division has grown to the largest academy of its kind in the U.S., attracting recruits from all over the world.
I wanted to get into a culture where there was tradition, history, loyalty, respect.
We ask them, if you could describe what a firefighter is in one word, what would that word be? Character, honor, respect, integrity, servant, and teamwork. When I wrote them out, I noticed that the first letter of each one of those spelled Christ. And God just spoke to me quickly and he said, that is the pillars of wisdom. Those are the pillars that I want you to help incorporate.
Our mission at Training Division and in the fire service is really the same as the Christian faith, and that is to leave no one behind.
A major highlight of the school comes during the 2-week hands-on training for recruits. They invited me to experience the intensity and hard work.
Okay, so I am all decked out in my gear right now. We're about to go through 6 emergency scenarios that they could encounter during their career. Apparently, I have been chosen for the medevac helicopter routine. This should be interesting. Let's hit the field.
Okay, put this on your waist. Open.
As Smart Fire continues to grow, Mick leans on a lesson learned from one tragic night. How the selfless act of 2 men pulling him from a fire instilled into him the value of saving others. Angela Zatopek, CBN News, Crowley, Texas.
Up next.
Write it on the wall. I'ma write it on the wall.
The soulful sounds of an up-and-coming gospel artist whose album hits stores tomorrow. We're taking you to Studio 5 to learn more about Royce Lovett and why he kept Motown waiting 6 months to sign a record deal. Stick around for the exclusive interview. In the recording world, new music drops every Friday. That's tomorrow. And a Florida native is being called the guy who is bringing back soul with his new project. Royce Lovett is an up-and-coming singer and songwriter who recently signed with the legendary Motown label, but only after months of serious prayer. He sat down with us in Studio 5 for a sample of Write It on the Wall.
If I could write it on the wall for everyone to see.
Write It on the Wall. It's a soulful tune from singer and songwriter Royce Lovett's very first project with the Motown Gospel record label.
Music was not your dream growing up, if I read correctly.
No.
What was your dream?
I wanted to be the featherweight champion of the world.
Where did that come from?
My dad.
Really?
My dad, yeah, he boxed and in the Job Corps and a little bit outside of that. But somewhere along, you know, he stopped. But it was a sport that we could kind of get into together. Like we never watched football or basketball together, something like that. But it was the thing we watched together, and we bought the instruments and the tools and the bag, and he used to train me and stuff like that. And then this is what I thought I could do. I thought I could be the featherweight champion of the world, and on like my off time, I could play wide receiver for the Denver Broncos.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So when did you wake up and say, I don't think this is gonna work?
Well, it actually happened when I gave my life to Christ. It was at a convention called Acquire the Fire. When I got back, I was just like, you know, God, what should I do? And there's a few times in my life where I clearly heard God, and he said, do what you know. And at that time, what I knew the most of was music, because my mother was a worship leader at church. I was singing and dancing everywhere. You know, I was at church 4 days out of the week. Yeah, it was like 4 days out of the week, and at every practice, every prayer meeting. So what I knew the most of was music.
Did you know when you started pursuing music that this would be a profession, that you'd professionally do this, considering no one else in your family is doing it professionally?
I don't know if I thought that far. I just knew that, everyone had a purpose. That's what I felt. Like when I gave my life to Christ, it was like, okay, so now purpose kicks in.
The young husband and father plays drums, guitar, bass, and keyboard. And he recorded 5 independent projects before signing a record deal.
This has been a really awesome experience, like from each one, like learning yourself, and then to go back, because I actually go back and listen to some of those things.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if I would do that, but okay. I'm hoping I'm maturing. I think I'd be afraid to look back and go, boy, oh boy.
Yeah, to look back and be like, oh man, like, okay, I know what I was thinking there. Now I can actually do that, you know? Or like, oh, I actually like this part of this song. Maybe I can like keep a piece of this, and, you know, so it's a real cool experience.
How would you describe your sound today?
I would say, well, it's been coined cerebral soul. I was playing in a park one day, and someone walked up, and we started jamming together, and he was like, bro, like your music is cerebral soul because it's soulful, but it makes you think. And I was like, oh, I like that, that's cool. So that's kind of followed me. I haven't been telling everybody that, but it's kind of followed me somehow. But I would like to call my music, you know, like soul pop, soul hip hop, because I think that nowadays there's no like divide in music anymore. Like everybody's singing, everybody wants to rap, everybody's playing an instrument. Like everybody is a fan of folk and a fan of soul and a fan, you know, when I was coming up, it was like, you're young and you're black, so you only listen to hip hop.
Yeah.
That's how when I was coming up, but now it's different. So I like to let my personality kind of shape the music. So if it sounds a little soulful, it's because that's how I was feeling that day. If it sounds a little more popish, if it sounds a little bit more hip hop, but I like to kind of make those parts of my personality just kind of mix in together.
So I'ma write it on the wall, I'ma write it on the wall, for the world to see, I'ma write it on the wall.
Royce is most excited about this new chapter in his music career, but only because it's a fruit of his obedience to the voice of God.
When God told me to only do music, when he told me to quit my job, when he told me to get married, when he told me to do these things, it's all worked out. And so when I first got, the opportunity to meet everyone at Motown and, talk to them at Motown Gospel and stuff, it was really surreal. It was like, wow, it's, I'm talking to these guys. I didn't actually know I was going to be here. I'm just, trying to follow what I believe God is telling me. And so for a while, like, it wasn't like, okay, I'm going to sign it. It was, I'm going to pray about it. And I think I prayed about it for about 6 months.
Wow.
And God was like, okay, so this is what you should do. And so I'm excited to see what God has in store. So I'm really excited.
So it took you 6 months to sign.
What
did the labels say?
They were really patient with me because I told them, I was like, hey, you hear a lot of horror stories with these things. And I just want to do what God says. I know this is a label, and I know it's a Christian family, but I know there's a bottom line, at the same time, and I want to make sure that our bottom lines match with because my bottom line is never money. Money comes and goes, and my bottom line is doing what God wants.
It is time now for your Thursday Thankful, and with that, I really like to focus on gratitude for things we routinely take for granted, like the simple ability to sleep and to be refreshed. In life, we're almost always on the go with our minds and bodies racing nonstop. So today, I got out of bed with this on my heart. God, thank you for sweet, uninterrupted rest. I'm grateful for new energy in my body and tender new mercies for the day. Just having health is wealth beyond measure. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN News Watch. Remember, you can find more of our exclusive coverage of the issues that you care most about at cbnnews.com. We'd love to hear what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can do that online as well. Hope you'll join us again right here next time. It is Thursday. Let us all make it a thankful one.